Hey, welcome back to the Convo Couch, everyone. I'm Pastor Jardula. What if I told you that shockwaves were sent throughout the whole establishment last week as the Democrats and the establishment went jumping on the report of a New York Times article that stated, and I quote, Afghan contractor handed out Russian cash to kill Americans, officials say. Well, you can just imagine how the establishment went crazy. But what if I told you that was only the beginning, the opening act to all their theatrics, as it came later on in the week and the Democratic establishment really then stuck it to the American soldier? Let's talk about it on the couch. But first, a little bit of those Democrats acting like Democrats. Here's the leadership.
I was not briefed on the Russian military intelligence, but it shows that we need, in this coming defense bill, which we're debating this week, tough sanctions against Russia, which thus far Mitch McConnell has resisted.
What I consider to be a horrifying revelation in the New York Times last night.
I was not briefed on the Russian military intelligence.
Assuming the Times report is accurate,
tough sanctions against Russia.
The U.S. intelligence community has assessed that a Russian military intelligence unit
I was not briefed on the Russian military intelligence.
Has been offering bounties to extremist groups in Afghanistan to kill U.S. troops.
Tough sanctions against Russia.
This is as bad as it gets, and yet the president will not confront the Russians on this score.
I was not briefed on the Russian military intelligence.
Just as I've said to the president, with him all roads lead to Putin.
Tough sanctions against Russia.
I don't know what the Russians have on the president politically, personally, financially, or whatever it is.
I was not briefed on the Russian military intelligence.
Despite his intervention into our election, which is well documented by our intelligence community.
Tough sanctions against Russia.
And despite now possibly this allegation, which we should have been briefed on.
Which thus far Mitch McConnell has resisted.
The president wants to ignore any allegation against Russia. As I've said to him in that meeting when I'm pointing to him in a blue suit, with you, Mr. President, all roads lead to Putin.
Not only has he failed to sanction or impose any kind of consequences on Russia.
Russia's never gotten over the humiliation they suffered in Afghanistan, and now they're taking it out on us, our troops.
Donald Trump has continued his embarrassing campaign of deference and debasing himself before Vladimir Putin.
This is totally outrageous.
His entire presence has been a gift to Putin.
This is beyond. The list is a long one in terms of its ignoring what Russia has done. All a gift to Putin.
Tough sanctions against Russia.
So there they are, ladies and gentlemen, the leadership, your leadership of the left, they are saying. My partner's saying no more. Don't say that they're left anymore, because the Democratic Party is center-right at best. I happen to think when it comes to foreign policy, they're far to the right. And I really wish that was the only act they had going on, that little Russian thing, to blame Vladimir Putin directly. It wasn't our invasion of Afghanistan for 20 years that really enticed or really motivated the Taliban freedom fighters to come kill our American troops. It was Putin shelling out the dollars. That's what they want you to believe. And all it is a big distraction. It's not that they have TDS. It was a big distraction on how they were going to vote and how they were going to move the ball closer to keeping this war going on, okay? Moving away from the idea that Donald Trump was going to get ready to remove troops from Afghanistan. I never thought he would do that, because I never thought we would give up the opioid fields. But he was there. And guess who stopped him? The resistance. The left. The imperialist left. And they are fascist just as well. I'm going to argue that up and down, okay? Obama bombed how many countries? Please. And now Donald Trump wants to end a war and the Democrats stop him? And it's right here, the Hill. I mean, oh my God. The Senate rejects Rand Paul's proposal on withdrawing troops from Afghanistan. Let's just get right into this, because this makes me just ill when I read this. The Senate on Wednesday rejected an attempt by Senator Rand Paul of Kentucky to include a proposal on withdrawing U.S. troops from Afghanistan in a mammoth defense policy bill. Senators voted 60-33 to table Paul's amendment to the National Defense Authorization Act, effectively pigeonholing it. The proposal, which was also sponsored by Senator Tom Udall, would remove troops from Afghanistan within 1 year and give them a $2,500 bonus. It would also repeal the 2001 authorization for the use of military force once U.S. troops have left the country. This was big, ladies and gentlemen. This is not only about bringing our troops home and rewarding them, giving them some money. And God only knows they're killing themselves every day when they come home. Because we're talking 4,000 troops lost over there, right? 20,000 injured. And how many every day kill themselves, okay, from PTSD? 22 every day from these wars that have been going on for so long. And what did they do? We have a chance to end it, and they did. But I want to kind of go over what had happened. So I want to start off by playing a little bit of what Rand Paul said, because he really does break it down. And a lot of times we don't give credit to some of these Republicans who really speak against imperialism, the libertarian brand. We'll get into that some more. But let's start talking about, let's take a look at what Rand Paul had to say. I'm going to break it down in two parts. It's just a minute each one. Here's the first part of Rand Paul talking on the Senate floor.
Our amendment will finally and completely end the war in Afghanistan. Over 4,000 Americans have died in Afghanistan, and over 20,000 have been wounded. It's time to bring our soldiers home. We now have soldiers who were born after 9/11 serving in Afghanistan. The war shows no sign of ending. It is not sustainable to keep fighting in Afghanistan generation after generation. We've been fighting in Afghanistan for so long that our youngest soldiers fighting there weren't even born at the time. We have spent about $1 trillion to establish an Afghan government, a government that is rife with corruption and dysfunction. We've spent more to rebuild Afghanistan than the Marshall Plan to rebuild Europe after World War II. We've built infrastructure in Afghanistan and then watched it deteriorate and watched the Afghans be unable to even maintain the infrastructure we built for them, and they ask us for more money to maintain the infrastructure. Meanwhile, our roads and our bridges crumble here at home. What?
So there he is. Rand Paul laid it out beautifully. He said this is what happened. First of all, let's just take the mindset of who's fighting this 20-year war. There are actually now troops that are going to fight in Afghanistan that weren't even born when this conflict started. That was after 9/11 when the authorization use of military force was implemented, giving George W. Bush Jr. the power to skip over Congress and just go after anybody that went after my dad. And he started with Afghanistan. I remember Ralph Nader saying it was a quagmire going in there, but he was given the authorization. Don't even go worry about coming to Congress. Just go right ahead, and he went. So now 20 years, and Rand Paul points out 18-year-old children that are going to fight this war weren't even alive when the war first started. Also, he talks about what happened there with the government, that it's just been wasted. Money's been funneled in there. And if you go on C-SPAN, and I implore you, please, guys, ladies and gentlemen, I know a lot of people like to read, but do what I do sometimes. Go over to C-SPAN and watch what they're saying, because a lot can be changed in the language what's written, especially when you have the mainstream media backing you up. It's all warmongers and corporations that are profiting off war, who hires all these reporters, so they're going to twist the narrative. But when you go on C-SPAN and you watch them speak and have to explain what they're doing, you can catch a lot more. So take a little time to do that. And Rand Paul laid it out beautifully. He talked about the young troops that are going. Then he talks about the money that's wasted there. Okay, pretty much he also talked about one particular situation where we're just funneling money in there to build things that aren't even necessary. A natural gas station that has no natural gas cars in Afghanistan makes sense. Money just kind of laundered off to some contractors that are friendly government people, just like they did the Clintons in Haiti with their friends. Same thing in Afghanistan. There was even talk about, and Rand Paul broke it down, about a hotel, a luxury hotel that's being built in Afghanistan. I mean, ladies and gentlemen, the scam that's going on. Well, guess what? The contractor took the money and ran after he put up a skeleton. So now it's used by Taliban members to climb up there and sniper down on our U.S. embassy. But guess what? That ain't Congress members' kids that are down there. No, that's the poor kids. That's your kids. You know, your kids, the lower class, the people who have no money, the poor people. That's your kids getting shot at. They don't give a shit. And, we can look at all these statistics. Like, let's look at the troop levels right now, because this is very interesting, because people go, oh, Republicans, pro-Republicans, Republicans. But look right here, the U.S. troop levels in Afghanistan. Notice that they are amped up in 2008, 2009, 2010, 2011, 2012, 2013. Who was the president then? Remember the surge? So don't give me this crap that it's just Republican. Yeah, the Republicans in Congress are very neoconservative and they like war. But this was a Democratic president and a Barack Obama who amped up the bombing. Donald Trump has been trying to get it down and get out of there. I mean, I don't want to sit here and give Donald Trump credit for being a non-interventionist, because he's far from that. But when it comes to Afghanistan, I mean, why the hell are you trying to stop him? And look at the cost, the U.S. cost of war. I mean, it's ridiculous, ladies and gentlemen. This is from the source, the U.S. Department of Defense. According to the U.S. Department of Defense, the total military expenditure in Afghanistan from October 2001 to September 2019 was $778 billion. Almost $1 trillion wasted there. Okay, and how much right here? It says, in addition, the U.S. State Department, along with the U.S. Agency for International Development and other government agencies, spent $44 billion on reconstruction projects. Reconstruction projects that are not even holding up. Because why? We tried to plant a government. It wasn't a rightful government. It was a fugazi government. So that government is not going to maintain control. Guess what, ladies and gentlemen? The Taliban has as much power today as they did in 2001 when we went in there in the first place. Fact. Deal with it. So those are the statistics. And I also just want to point out the U.S. total budget one more time. The biggest difference in spenders in 2019, the U.S. defense budget is larger than the next 10 military spenders combined. And it's right there. $685 billion last year. It's going to be $700+ billion this year, more than China, Saudi Arabia, Russia, India, UK, France, Japan, Germany, Brazil, South Korea. We spend more across the board than all those countries. And something to take in mind, to be a little bit comforted about if you're a war hawk. Breaking, the House panel unanimously approves a $740.5 billion defense policy bill. There you go. Get that 0.5 in there, because you need that extra $500 million. But that's what it is. Now I want to break down the second part of Rand Paul's speech on the floor, because he talks about the first part. What's going on there? Why are we there? What's the mission? We've wasted money. We've killed all the people who attacked us in 9/11. Remember, that was the excuse to go there in the first place. So moving forward, Rand Paul starts to address what kind of mentality do we have if we're going to continue this gross war, this occupation of 20 years, ladies and gentlemen. Think about that. 20 years. Here's Rand Paul moving forward.
What kind of foolhardy nature of government is it that we continue to stay there? So we continue to pour good money after bad into Afghanistan, hoping that the outcome will somehow change, hoping that maybe the first 20 years will produce better results than the last 20 years did. This NDAA, this defense authorization that we're debating here in the Senate, even has a sense of the Senate in it opposing a precipitous withdrawal from Afghanistan. We've been there for 20 years. How can we characterize withdrawal after 20 years after we defeated the enemy as precipitous? It's crazy. The American people say, come home, and this is your chance. Many people have said we should end the war. Today you get to vote. Are you for staying in Afghanistan for another generation? Are you for continuing a war that has lost its purpose? Today we get to vote. Up or down, are you for the war or against the war? Does the war still have a mission? The American people know better. They are ready to declare victory and come home.
He even gives the Republican base the red meat. They're ready to declare victory and come home. Tell them what they want to hear. Just get the hell out of there. You know what I'm saying? And why do we have to have a Republican on the floor doing this? Where's the Democrats? Where's the left? I mean, this guy's out there preaching against our occupation, saying it's crazy that we're there. It's crazy. A Republican. I mean, everybody was going crazy this whole week with the whole Russian bounty thing. Why isn't our Congress members going crazy about this? Where's Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez? Even if she's not in the Senate, why aren't they bringing attention to this? Putting everybody on blast. What's going on? I mean, it's so ridiculous. It's a scam, ladies and gentlemen, and American human lives are the pawns in this whole situation while we bomb all these other countries. And what could be more racist than that? Going around from country to country, bombing indigenous people in their own homeland? 20 friggin' years, and they vote this down. He put them on blast. Hey, you have a chance today to end the war. Why isn't this in the front page news? Why is this swept under the rug? You know why? Because people don't give a shit about our imperialistic ways. 14% of people, of voters, are aware of it. And this is what we're doing. And you wonder why we can't get money for anything else? The made-up money system that they just print or electronically create? Yeah, learn your MMT, people. But yet we're sitting here in the shadows and we're talking about a Fugazi bounty bullshit as if Putin now is going to freaking start laying out the cash to kill Americans. Nancy Pelosi, your leader there. Chuck Schumer, your leader. This schmuck that you're turning around and telling us to vote for? My God. And let me tell you something. Just watch, ladies and gentlemen. You want me to show you how this is a scam? Watch the opposition. James Inhofe of Oklahoma over here. Watch this clown talk about what... He's the opposition. Watch this.
The senator from Oklahoma.
There is another side to this story, and I think when you hear those in promoting this particular amendment, it's one we all agree. We want an end to the war. We want this to happen, but there's some other reasons that this probably is not the best way to do it. First of all, the amendment directs a calendar-based withdrawal from Afghanistan rather than a conditions-based. We've talked about this quite often. It's something that you can't just say it's going to happen by this day, but under these certain circumstances. It undermines peace negotiations and the Trump administration's Afghan strategy. He's talked about that publicly. I think a lot of people agree with that. I do. It would also undermine the February 2020 U.S. agreement with the Taliban that tries to map out a path to peace. According to the plan, U.S. forces reductions must be tied to Taliban counterterrorism commitments. That's part of the plan. Repealing it, the 2001 authorization for the use of military force would undermine the President of the United States authority for countering terrorists in Afghanistan, but also would undermine the Gitmo detention and other global counter-terrorist efforts. The DOD, the White House, would oppose this because it removes an authority for using military force and would significantly undermine counterterrorism authorities. So I move to table the Paul Amendment number 2011, and I ask for the yeas and nays.
All right, I'm sorry I have to stop him, and I'm going to just stop him right there, man. I mean, all the stuff, he even went to Gitmo. This is the same crap. You know, we all agree here. We want to end the war. It's been 20 years. If you really wanted to end the war, you would have ended the war. James Inhofe of Oklahoma, you neocon. You can't even speak seriously. You're reading off a piece of paper. You're mumbling, and they're at your mumble. Kids are dying for 20 years now. Indigenous people in Afghanistan were bombing for 20 years now. But yet you went, and then you did the same shit. It's the whole, we can't let the enemy know when we're leaving. That was the same crap we heard about Iraq from the whole Wolfowitz and Cheney crew. We can't cut and run. Why the hell are we there in the first place? We only went there to get the guys to kill us. Remember James Inhofe? We got him. And don't tell us that you want to end the war. If you did want to end the war, you had 20 years to end it. You would have ended it. Stop with the no cut and run. You bring up Gizmo. And also you talk about the AUMF, that we can't pull that away from the president. That president shouldn't have that in the first place. It's disgusting that Congress wants to step away and wash their hands of things. Well, you know, he went and did it on his own. Yeah, because you gave him the power. You just had the chance to give the power back to Congress, give the power, which is more in line with the people, because now your representative has to answer when they vote for these wars, but instead you give it to Donald Trump. Please. I want to point out right here real quick the Democrats that voted no. But I also want to point out the Republicans that voted, remember, this was to table a amendment. So if you're voting yay, you're tabling the whole amendment. So yay is a bad vote. Nay is a good vote. But let's take a look at the yays, and let's point out the Democrats: Blumenthal, Connecticut, Carper, Delaware, Coons, Delaware. Who else? Feinstein, Diane, California. Please. Democratic liberal, my yes. Hassan, New Hampshire. Jones, remember Doug Jones? Oh, Doug Jones over Roy Moore. We can't let him get elected. He's voted for war almost every time. Angus King, an independent. Good job. Joe Manchin. Man, we need Paula Jean. We need you, Paula Jean. I am now becoming a Paula Jean fan once again, and I would expect that from Manchin Joe. Menendez, New Jersey, always making the spotlights. Way to go, buddy. Murphy from Connecticut. This guy is a Russia-gating war hawk. Plain and simple. Reed, Rhode Island. Rosen, Nevada. Democrat, Shaheen, New Hampshire. Sinema, Arizona. And Mark Warner, Democrat, White House, Democrat, Rhode Island. Now, nays. We had 4 Republicans that voted nay to not sit down this amendment, to let it go through, to end the AUMF. And that was Braun, Republican. He voted nay. That's good. Thank you. Daines voted nay. Lee from Utah, nay. Ron Paul, nay. So we had 4 Republicans right there, and I want to point that out. Ron Paul helping us out. So that's the Democrats for you in a nutshell. Pretty much all those Democrats said yes to continued war in Afghanistan, and that's in the Senate. But while the Senate was having their own private circus, the House panel was performing its own bozo act. That's right. Take a look at this now. The House panel votes to constrain Afghan drawdown, ask for assessment on incentives to attack U.S. troops. So they're pretty much taking the unnamed sources, New York Times report, and using it to hide behind so they can propagate war. Let's read this here. The House Armed Services Committee voted Wednesday to put roadblocks on President Trump's ability to withdraw from Afghanistan, including requiring an assessment on whether any country has offered incentives for the Taliban to attack U.S. and coalition troops. So they're standing behind the unnamed sources bullshit, the CIA propagation. The National Defense Authorization Act amendment from Representative Jason Crow of Colorado would require several certifications before the U.S. military can further draw down in Afghanistan. Jason Crow, the Democrat. The amendment was approved 45-11. What a surprise. Representative Liz Cheney from Wyoming, who I believe will be running for president in 2024. She'll be the establishment's little sneaky pick to get them back into the driver's seat. First woman president will be a Republican if Liz Cheney comes through. Liz Cheney, the number 3 House Republican, argued the amendment lays out in a very responsible level what is going to be required if we are going to, in fact, make decisions about troop levels based on conditions on the ground and based on what's required for our own security, not based on political timelines. So there you have it, Liz Cheney, who's going to run for president. Watch 2024. She's going to be the little establishment pick to get back into the driver's seat, the Republican establishment side, because people would rather have that than these neoliberals who will probably run Mitt Romney for all we know. But Liz Cheney, there she is again. She's a war hawk just like her dad. So now you have both houses propagating war. It's time, ladies and gentlemen, to leave the Democratic Party. That is the whole message here today. That is the whole moral of the story. There's something else I want to bring into the table, too, about it, because, if you're a Democrat, you do have to look in the mirror and say, is this the party of peace? No, this is the party of war. Okay, but there's something I want to talk about right now, and that's when it comes to the populist progressive left, like myself. We have to address cancel culture, because why is it always the libertarians, as of late, that are really speaking up for progressive values? We're talking about ending a war. We're talking about ending a war, and it's Rand Paul Republican, Libertarian from Kentucky. A couple months ago, it was Thomas Massey, another Republican, Kentucky, Libertarian, who was fighting for transparency, fighting to try to make the Democrats and the Republicans, the House of Representatives, go on record, not just a voice vote so they can hide their votes on their corporate giveaway. What that means is that we have to stop with the cancel culture. I know a lot of libertarians get shot down right away from a lot of people on the left because they don't necessarily believe in a Green New Deal and they don't believe for Medicare for all. And that's true. Those are really hard values that a lot of a lot of progressives have on the left. And sometimes we have a tendency to say that if you're not with us on our most important issues, we can't be with you at all. I understand that they're not with you on your most important issues, but they are with us on serious important issues that we both can agree on. I think it was a tactic by the elites to make sure that there was a form of cancel culture years ago where progressives would not talk to libertarians to come to agreements on certain things, like anti-interventionist policies, not getting involved in wars, protecting our civil liberties, having election integrity so it's transparent. You can see they're fighting for transparency. So that is another little lesson to be learned, okay? We have to get rid of the cancel culture. We have to talk to some people on the other side. I say let's talk with libertarians because there's a lot of issues we can agree on, and then we can form our own party outside this two-party duopoly, because you can see right here, the two-party duopoly is all about war. The Democrats, they just showed you. They don't give a damn about you, ladies and gentlemen. They're further extending the Afghan war. They're allowing it to happen. They have the House. They had extra votes in the Senate. If they voted all down Democratic Party line to end this war, they had 4 Republicans to come over for them and win that vote. Okay? The other people who didn't show up, they would have gotten over the top, but they didn't do that. Why? Because the Democrats are just like the Republicans, at least the established ones. They're Democratic hawks. Why did that happen? Because the establishment Democrats are just like the Republicans, and they will always let you down. The Pasta Jardula, Convo out. See you soon.